And the master raised his finger and said, enter Zen from there, from here. Every point is... So these things cannot be explained, that you spoil them if you explain them. I just explained it, unfortunately. Do you remember the story I recounted I believe in a New Earth? The story of a Zen master who is on a pilgrimage. That's the ancient word for hike. He's on a pilgrimage somewhere with a disciple, and so they're walking in silence, of course. Except, of course, the disciple hasn't quite arrived yet at the realization that Zen aims at, so the disciple is walking, but obviously thinking while he's walking. Finally, they sit down somewhere for a little picnic, a break, and then disciple says to the master, Master, I've been thinking, still don't get it. I've been here for 5 years, and I still don't get what is the essence of what you teach. What is that essence? I just can't get it. I've been trying to figure it out, but I can't. And the master said, can you hear the sound of that mountain stream, that little... And the disciple said, what mountain stream? I don't hear anything. The master said, listen carefully. And so the disciple goes, and then in the very far distance, the disciple hears the sound of water of a little mountain stream, very distant. And then the disciple says, yeah, I can hear it now, Master. And the Master says, that is the portal into Zen, or there is the beginning of Zen, that's it. And for a moment, I don't know how long, the disciple actually gets it. Wow. And he gets it because his mind stops and awareness remains. And why did that happen? Because all his conscious attention was required for the sensory, in this case auditory perception. There wasn't enough left to be, so to speak, to be consumed by thinking. So there was a cessation of thinking and the arising of presence. The master very cleverly arranged it for him in that way, rather than saying stop thinking, which wouldn't work. So there wasn't the disciple got it. In some versions there's a continuation of the story. So they finish their picnic, they walk on, and an hour later, by then the disciple has fallen back into a stream of useless thinking, of course. And the disciple says, I have another question, Master. What would you have said if I hadn't been able to hear that mountain stream? What would you have said then? Okay. Slight correction in how I told the story before I finish it. When the disciple originally says, yes, I can hear the mountain stream, yes, I can hear it, the master says, enter Zen from there, or from here. Enter Zen from there, enter Zen from here. In other words, that's the entry point into Zen, this moment. And then hours later, when the disciple has been thinking again, they're walking again, what would you have said if I'd said to you, I can't hear the mountain stream? What would you have said then? The mind is so weird, it comes all, never stops the ruminations. And the master raised his finger and said, enter Zen from there, from here. Every point is... So these things cannot be explained, that you spoil them if you explain them. I just explained it, unfortunately. The mind that doesn't stop. You have the mind, such a wonderful tool, such a wonderful instrument for creation, the ability to think, that's inseparable from the arising of language, the ability to use language. And thinking is a kind of inner talk. And it grew and grew. And gradually it took over. And so humans lost their connectedness with being, which before the arising of thinking was unconscious, but they have felt that deep. They did not live in a problem-making state of anxiety, or if there was fear, it was short-lived because there was immediate danger. But there was no anxiety or fear generated by the thinking process, because there was no thinking process. There was no identities that were before the time that Narcissus saw his image in the pool of water and became obsessed with it. That I talked about yesterday, the first selfie, the world's first selfie, me, that's me. And then people began to have a relationship with themselves. I hate myself, I love myself. Sometimes I hate myself and sometimes I love myself. Loving yourself is certainly preferable to hating yourself. I would recommend it. But it's not the last step, it's an intermediate step. Beyond loving yourself is no longer having a relationship with yourself. I'm ending the relationship with myself. Goodbye. This is it. So after loving yourself, the next step is simply being yourself. Then you don't hate yourself, you can't really say I love myself, because the moment you say I love myself, you have created a duality, I and myself. So who is that self that you either love or hate, and who are you?